Summit concluded in Osaka in Japan. Issues such as digital economy, addressing inequalities, realizing an inclusive and sustainable world were discussed in the summit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid special emphasis on building a disaster-resilient future on the second day of the G20 summit. He invited G20 countries to join the International Coalition on Disaster-Resilient Infrastructure. Later addressing the media, the Prime Minister's Sherpa at G20, Suresh Prabhu, said India, under the leadership of PM Modi, has been championing that we need anti-corruption measures at the global level. So, fight against corruption should be carried out by all G20 countries by combating foreign bribery.
India, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has been championing that we need anti-corruption measures at global level. So fight against corruption should be done by all G20 countries by combating foreign bribery and to ensure that each G20 country has a law to enforce it so that people committing economic crimes in one geography will not be able to run away to other and try to escape the clutches of law.
The Prime Minister also held bilateral meetings with the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison.
आपको भी बहुत बधाई क्योंकि आप भी एक बहुत बड़ी टफ लड़ाई लड़कर के चुनाव जीत करके आए हैं और बाय एंड लार्ज सर्वे रिपोर्ट ने तो बता दिया था कि आप पराजित हो गए हैं, लेकिन उसके बाद आप जीत करके आए, उसका एक बड़ा ही अलग मैसेज है और मुझे विश्वास है कि आपके विजय के बाद एक स्टेबल गवर्नमेंट का मैसेज ऑस्ट्रेलिया की जनता ने दिया है। आप भी अभिनंदन के अधिकारी हैं, ऑस्ट्रेलिया की जनता भी अभिनंदन के अधिकारी है और आपने मेरे विजय के तुरंत बाद भारत के लोकतंत्र को, हमारे चुनाव को, मेरे विजय को बधाई दी। इसके लिए मैं बहुत आभारी हूँ और कल आप कितने अच्छे हैं ये लिख करके तो आपने ऐसा वायरल मैसेज कर दिया है पूरे देश में और ऑस्ट्रेलिया की इंडियन कम्युनिटी में भी, और इसके लिए भी मैं आपका बहुत आभारी हूँ। भारत के लोगों ने ऑस्ट्रेलिया में 2 विक्ट्री का विजय एक साथ मनाया। ऑस्ट्रेलिया के विजय को नहीं और भारत के भी विजय को, इसलिए ऑस्ट्रेलिया में बसने वाला जो भारतीय समुदाय है उसके लिए डबल विक्ट्री का माहौल था।
Very closely, and with our India economic strategy, with the wonderful relationship we have, European protection with Australia, after both of our elections, there's a wonderful opportunity now to really pursue what is emerging as a great relationship, and it's has been. And in the most immediate term, I suppose the key challenges will be sitting on different sides in the World Cup over there in the United Kingdom. Though it looks like India and Australia may well end up being the final 2 teams. So we all watch that with interest and great appreciation.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi also held a bilateral meeting with President of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, in Osaka on the sidelines of the G20 summit. The Prime Minister will also hold meetings with French President Emmanuel Macron and Australian Prime Minister Scott. He also held meetings with them. He also met presidents of Italy and Chile and Prime Minister of Singapore during the day today.
During Prime Minister's bilateral meeting with the President of Turkey, there was some discussion on the function level exchanges which have taken place. There was a Foreign Office consultation a couple of months back. Some discussion also took place on how the 2 countries can cooperate in defense manufacturing. There was a recognition that in terms of trade, there was plenty of opportunities which needs to be explored. And in that context, in terms of exploring the opportunities in trade and investment, it was decided on a committee meeting between India and Turkey. This should take place as soon as possible. There was some discussion also on the people-to-people contact under the ambit of the civil aviation, how
India-Indonesia cooperation. PM Modi congratulated Widodo on his recent election victory and thanked him for keeping a keen eye on elections in India. The 2 nations share close diplomatic ties.
discussions basically focused on 4 different areas. Some sharing of perspectives on Indo-Pacific, Also on trade and investment, there was some discussion on how we can deepen the maritime cooperation between India and Indonesia, and also to take our defense relationship to the next level. There is a trade target which has been set up between the two countries of 50 billion to be achieved by 2025.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi also held a bilateral meeting with Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro on the sidelines of the G20 summit. The two leaders held discussions on strengthening bilateral ties. India said that the two nations are complementary to each other. PM Modi congratulated his Brazilian counterpart for his recent election victory. He praised Bolsonaro for Brazil's growth and development in the agriculture sector. Improving business linkages and overcoming climate change were also among the key issues discussed during the meeting.
Discussion on cooperation in agriculture as well as on biofuels in the context of addressing climate change. The two countries will be celebrating 75 years of establishment of diplomatic relations, which is the Platinum Jubilee in 2023. And both leaders agreed that we should put in place some preparation has to start in right earnest to prepare for the celebration.
Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison today tweeted a selfie with Prime Minister Modi, praising him in Hindi, saying, "Kitna acha hai Modi." The newly elected Australian Prime Minister met his Indian counterpart in the morning and shared some light moments with him. Last month, the two leaders congratulated each other on their respective election victories and pledged to work together. Retweeting the Australian PM's tweet, Prime Minister Modi said, "Mate, I'm stoked about the energy of our bilateral relationship."
Which have been launched by this government. For example, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. He also spoke about the construction of toilets in India. He also spoke about how 78% of beneficiaries of Mudra scheme are women. He concluded by saying that India should resolve, and we should resolve to build a new India, and India's huge demographic base will make a contribution to the achievements of SDGs.
And External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar held bilateral strategic dialogue with Foreign Affairs Minister of Japan, Taro Kono, in Osaka on the sidelines of the G20 summit. Union Home Minister Amit Shah today inaugurated the annual conference on capacity